Okay. Next chapter is, whatever is overcoming with worms. Y'all are gonna love this one. Many authors these days have a symbol of their own unique personality. When we think of Barbara Johnson, we visualize geraniums and broad rim hats. Geraniums and broad rim hats. When Worms MIT appeared in bookstores, I never dreamed my name would be forever entwined with a slimy invertebrate. While touring my publishing company for the first time, an eager young woman introduced me to a group of salespeople by proudly announcing, "This is Becky Freeman. She's our author with worms." Don't you know how eager they were to shake hands with me after that intro? Since that happened, I've played around with the idea of changing my business card to read Becky Freeman, the author with worms. Or better yet, I've thought about using the name Worms as an acronym for my own organization. Worms Incorporated. Women overcoming ridiculous, mind-boggling situation. To assume the leadership of such a prestigious, prestigious organization as Worms Incorporated, of course, have the necessary qualifications and experience. Besides the volume I've already written, I'd like to submit the following story as proof of my credentials. One Thanksgiving, our family was visiting Scott's parents, who live about 2 hours driving distance from us. Scott and the children decided to stay over for an extra day, but I needed to get back home to work on a writing assignment, so I drove home alone, leaving late that evening. On the drive home, I went the wrong direction several times because it was dark. And well, you know how different the world is when the lights are off. When I finally arrived at the gate to the entrance of our little lakeside community, it was around 2 o'clock a.m., and I found myself in the first of a series of mind-boggling predicaments. I, I had remembered to get a key to the gate from Scott. I contemplated turning away and driving to a motel, but thought, no, that would be silly. Our house is only a mile down the road and there beyond this locked gate. So I parked on the side of the road, took my keys and my purse, locked the doors to my car, and walked up to the 7-foot gate. Tossing my purse over the top, I waited until I heard it land with a thud on the other side. Then I began my ascent over the gate. A middle-aged woman doesn't get many chances to climb fences, and I actually thought it was rather fun, like being in the third grade again. Of course, I'd rather have enjoyed this jaunty climb on a sunny day rather than on a cold, misty night at 2 o'clock a.m. But we overcomers must look on the bright side, mustn't we? I picked up my purse from the asphalt, resolutely slinging it over my shoulder, and began the mile-long trek to our home. Have I mentioned how dark it was yet? I felt like Snow White walking through cartoon shadowy forests, the trees taking on a dark life of their own on either side of the road. The hoot owls once made me jump with such a sudden start that I dropped my purse and had to grope for it on the ground like a blind woman. I kept repeating comforting verses I'd learned as a child. At times I am afraid I will trust in thee. You are a very present help in times of trouble. Before long, my heart stopped pounding, and I was actually beginning to enjoy the quiet night and the stars overhead until my new boots rubbed two flesh blisters into the sides of my tender feet. I was also beginning to feel the painful effects of having drowned a supersized cola on the drive home. Finally, thankfully, I made my way to my front door and nearly fell on the welcoming front porch with gratitude. "Ah, home sweet home," I said, leaning against the door to open it. But something was awry with my home sweet home. The door was locked now. I realized that for most people this is not unusual. Most folks lock the front doors of their houses when they go away for any length of time. But since we were only gone for the day and Scott knew I'd be coming home alone, a locked door raised all sorts of dire suspicions. When I realized something else, the dogs weren't barking. Daisy, our Brittany Spaniel, and Colonel, the little schnauzer, always bark either in greeting to us or in warning to strangers. Something was terribly wrong with this picture, besides the fact that the door was locked, and I was once again keyless, not to mention clueless. Burglars obviously had killed the dogs and locked me out of my own house. I hate it when that happens, but we shall overcome in my motto, so I did not give up. I would go find help. Where does one go for help, however on foot, at 3:35 a.m.? My feet bleeding, my head pounding, I grabbed up my purse and marched toward our neighbors, Melissa and Michael Gant. Yes, I brightened when I saw their car in the driveway. At least they are in town. I hated to wake them up at this hour, but I felt for my own safety that I had to get someone to help me find a way into my house and who'd provide comfort if I should need to grieve the loss of my pets and all worldly possessions. I knocked and knocked and knocked and knocked. Not a creature would stir in my neighbor's house. I turned the knob, and to my surprise, the front door popped open. "Melissa!" I yelled. Nothing. "Michael!" I hollered. Still all was quiet. Great, I thought. Maybe the burglar got Michael and Melissa too. This is so funny. My name and my son's name is in this book. Wait till you find out who else is in this book that's in my family. So I walked into the darkened kitchen, noticed a phone with glowing buttons, picked it up, and called Scott's parents home. "Beverly!" "Yes?" "I'm so sorry for calling this late, or this early. I guess it's morning, isn't it? Can I please speak to Scott? I've broken into my neighbor's house, and I'm using their phone because I can't break into our house." "What?" "It's a long story. Could I just speak with Scott?" "Sure," she answered, and in a few seconds Scott was on the phone. "Becky!" he asked sleeplessly. "Yes?" "Why am I talking to you on the phone at 4 in the morning?" "Well, Scott," and I explained what had happened up to that point. "So you see," I continue, "I'm worried because the doors are locked and the dogs are probably dead, and I'm in someone else's house without their knowledge, using their phone to talk to you. And they may be dead too, but I'm too afraid to go look and see." "Don't you dare, Becky." Scott said quickly. You are lucky Michael hasn't woken up and shot you thinking you are an intruder. I am an intruder, just a friendly one. But they don't know that. What should I do? I lowered my voice to a whisper. Go home. I locked the doors this morning and forgot to tell you. The dogs are probably over at George's house. See, my dad's name is George. Down the street. You know how they love to go over there when we are gone? He's always feeding them treats and letting them in for a visit. How will I get in? Climb through the side window. Gotcha. See you tomorrow, if I'm alive and all. You'll be fine. I gently put the phone down, wondered if I should risk using the Gant's restroom before I left. Decided my bladder would have to tot it out and tiptoe back out of the front door, forcing my aching feet back to my home. I had to get a ladder to reach the unlocked window, but once inside, I nearly kissed the linoleum. The dogs were nowhere to be seen, and the house was completely ransacked, exactly as we had left it. I breathed a sigh of relief, ran to the bathroom to take care of my most pressing need, then took a hot bath, put band-aids on my blisters, and fell into bed. All is well, I thought as I finally fell into a deep slumber. Only you, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Thanks, thank you for taking care of me. Together we have overcome. I'd been asleep a full hour before the phone rang. I checked the red digital numbers on the alarm clock, 5:30 a.m. Picking up the phone, I wearily answered, "Hello? Becky!" The voice on the other end sounded concerned. "Yes? This is Janet." See, my older sister's name is in this book, too. I live near the gate. Yes, Janet? What's up? Well, I'm sorry to call so early, but the paper boy came by this morning and gave me a credit card belonging to you. Said he found it on the ground near the gate. I explained what had transpired the night before, and Janet offered to pick me up, take me to the gate, and open it with her key. I accepted her offer. This way, I could also get my car off the road and check for any more credit cards that might have fallen out of my purse when I threw it over the gate. When I got to the gate, sure enough, I found another credit card sticking out of a pile of leaves. I thanked Janet for her help and told her to pass on my gratitude to the paper boy, then drove back home. You know, I'd better check my purse to see if there are any more cards missing. I thought before I dropped back into bed, but now my purse was nowhere to be found. I looked everywhere I could have possibly left it. I can't believe this. I yelled aloud to an empty house. Then I realized what probably happened. I must have left my purse outside the window when I crawled in the house. A burglar must have seen it there in the porch light and stole it. I dialed the sheriff's office. It was now 6:15 a.m. and I'd had more activity all night long than I get in most days. When the dispatcher picked up the phone, I said, "Yes, this is Becky Freeman. I just wanted to report a stolen purse in case you recover any of my checks or credit cards or anything." "And where was your purse stolen?" "It was stolen where I left it outside last night when I crawled through the window to get into my house." I explained as best I could what had transpired during the night and my theory on my purse's disappearance. The dispatcher seemed anxious to get off the phone but wished me the best and locating the purse snatcher. I'd better call the village market too, I thought. It's the closest place for a burglar to try to pull something like that. Michael and Melissa are not only our neighbors and friends, they also own the village market. Melissa answered the phone. Hello, Grant's Village Market. Can I help you? Melissa. Becky. Melissa? You are not dead. No, she sounded confused. But I feel like it. I had to open the store this morning, and Michael and I had both taken entertainment last night for our colds. And entertainments or whatever. I'm still having a hard time keeping my eyes open, Becky. Yes, the weirdest thing happened. We found your purse in our kitchen this morning. I was so embarrassed after I explained my breaking and entering to Melissa. I called back the sheriff's department. Please don't worry anymore about my missing purse. I explained jubilantly. I found it. I left it in the other house I broke into last night. Isn't that wonderful? The dispatcher agreed that it was and quickly hung up the phone. Relieved to have located my purse and assaulted, I fell back into bed and into a deep sleep for an entire 30 minutes before the phone rang again at 7 a.m. Still a night early Still a mite early to be getting calls on the weekend morning. I picked up the phone and recognized the sweet voice of another friend and neighbor, Wally. Becky, there was something oddly familiar about the way this conversation was starting. Yes? Becky, I was jogging this morning and about halfway between the gate and your house I found 3 of your credit cards. Oh, Wally, thank you. I must have dropped them out of my purse when that owl hooted. Then I went through the entire story again with Wally, who sounded even more confused by the time I'd finished. I had to admit, the saga was getting more complicated with every phone call. The next day, my son found the last missing credit card on the road while riding his bike. Apparently, I'd been like Gretel of fairy tale fame in those wee morning hours, only instead of dropping crumbles, I'd been dropping credit cards to mark my path. I am so blessed to have friends and neighbors who are honest and caring, the kind who understand when you break into their house and leave your purse, but you don't know it, so you have to call the sheriff and report it stolen, and then when you find out it wasn't, have to call back and retract the report. Friends supportive of my struggle to be a worm, WORM. A woman overcoming yet another string of ridiculous, mind-boggling situations. So worms of the world wriggle out to the porch and relax. Not only is there now a support group for us, but we can hold our heads up out of the dirt with pride as we realize anew our purpose on earth to give the rest of the world a chance to pause, scratch their heads, and ask, what? Okay, that was the end of that one.